All right, we're about to start. All right, good morning. We are live right now. Matt, can you say something? Testing your
Ye
system. All right,
Yeah,
all
can
right.
y'all hear me?
Now we can hear you.
Yeah,
I
Oof,
can.
God, just in time. Good morning.
Perfect. Morning, 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 everyone. Let's see here. Let me go live on Instagram. All right, there we go. Morning, morning. Yeah, this is gonna be a fun one. I think. Yeah, I think people start noticing. Not always talking about real estate and anymore, kind of veering off to other topics, a little bit more worldviews, and kind of always relating it back to real estate in a sense or investing. So I think it's always fun, but a lot of stuff in the news right now, TikTok ban, Trump's inauguration. But I think the big thing we're going to kind of focus on initially is maybe our thoughts on what's going on with the TikTok ban, or how does that maybe impact any investing strategies we might have. So, Tyler, maybe you can start off a little bit on that.
dun dun dun. Yeah, I don't know. It's funny. I was joking with you yesterday that the only time I get on TikTok is when Aaron Foster sends me really, really weird videos. But it was interesting to me how an article I read this morning that maybe China is going to allow the sale and use it as leverage against proposed tariffs. That was probably the most interesting thing that I've seen so far. So I don't know what you guys think about that, but I mean that makes sense, and I'm curious to see what they're going to do as far as preventing like any backdoors, stuff like that. So for me, I think the biggest thing I like to see how it's kind of like social media might be used as a political tool, which should be kind of weird, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the interesting thing, and where we're at in the world and dynamics right now is where social media has become a big factor in politics, and but then how it always relates back to the economy and investing. So, I mean, I guess the first thing I want to maybe put out there is, do you think TikTok is this national security issue? Is that kind of the would you look at it that way?
I don't know if it's a national security issue. I mean, from what I understand, most of our data is already available through third-party brokers, anyways. So I think this was just more overt. But I'm not sure. Do you guys ever listen to All In podcast?
Yep.
It's a So they were talking about it the other day, and I love that podcast because they talk about stuff that I'm not familiar with. But that was interesting to me how they were mentioning that, hey, like all this data is already available in through third party sources. It's just that TikTok has ties to China, which makes that, I think, the big issue, right? So I don't know. Yeah, that's my hold on one second. I'll mute myself real quick.
Yeah, I think the ties to, like adversaries, and obviously, um, like a lot of people that were on TikTok kind of got a little bit of like a not a kind of like wave to like go to a new platform, which is, Red Note, China's, Communist Party, major platform that they are kind of pushing. And we've already got, you know, notes from our kind of like command security of like, hey, just be mindful, right? Like accepting the terms to like getting on this app. And then now there's all these like deep fakes of people posting like videos of like US military stuff. So um it could kind of get you in some hot water depending on, maybe like what you're unveiling, what kind of like data details, etc., like troop movement, like all that stuff. Like obviously that's like a no-go. Um, so just kind of in my experience in our line of work, right? Like already that's been pushed out. Like, just be careful what you're posting on social media because you can't really retract it back once it's out there. So
With that being said, morning Dennis, morning Keisha Davenport. She looks like he or she is paired from someone's channel, and she's asking, why is this guy going live if he's working? So I'm not
that's
sure
good.
who she's referring to.
Not me.
I'm not sure. But Dennis says, I've never been on TikTok or downloaded the app. I've seen some of the videos, but they're usually embedded in Facebook or something. Yeah. So like Tyler touched on too, like I'm not a big TikTok user. It's same thing as usually when Aaron sends me something is when I'm looking at something on TikTok. But there is a lot of people that are using it out there, and there's a lot of people making that's where their income is coming from. That's their job essentially, right? So I do see why a lot of people are upset about it possibly getting banned. But I do feel as if it's a very interesting point where we're at, where it's kind of like how there was such an uproar when it went dark for even that short 12-hour period. I mean, did you guys notice anyone, or did you see anyone's videos, kind of going having a difficult time that it was gone for 12 hours?
Well, I think a lot of those people have a lot of their income tied to TikTok too, right? Yeah, so I heard that there's a lot of meltdown videos, people freaking out. I also heard something interesting that some of the videos that were made with them anticipating that it was gone forever may backfire because of what they did or said. So, yeah, I think it's interesting. On a side note too, I was thinking when you change stuff like this, it does have an effect on like, well, we can tie it back to real estate investing. I remember when Facebook had to change a lot of stuff because they were data mining. Prior to that, I could be super efficient with my investing in Idaho. I mean, I got really good at targeting stuff. I would scrape data, enter it into Facebook, target those people, and I could compete really well. And then they banned a lot of that specifically for real estate. So I could see how if you have your income tied directly to it and it's gone, you're going to freak out. But then again, I mean, if we want to talk about it in the investing sense, that's why you diversify. If that person only had their following on TikTok, probably not a good idea. And I know a lot of people have said that about Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, or even YouTube, right? Like spread it out, make sure you're across all channels. And then like Andy Frisella was mentioning, make sure you gather your audience's data in some other form or fashion, like a private like email group or something to that effect.
Yeah, so Dennis says several months ago, the federal government and contracting companies were required to delete TikTok on their phone if they use their phone for any work-related activities. Yeah, so that's very interesting too, because I do know I forgot I was just listening to a podcast this morning. They were talking about certain countries that completely banned TikTok from their platforms for security reasons. And same thing too. I didn't realize it, but CapCut is owned by the same company, and I actually deleted the app when it had that 12-hour dark period, and now I can't put it back on my phone, so it's not on the app store anymore, right? So it's not necessarily banned, but it's not in the US app store anymore where you can reinstall it. So I don't have CapCut anymore. And I think the kind of loophole is that they're not allowed to upgrade the software right now. So the app is still available. If you have it on your phone, your device, you can use it. But as far as I guess the parent company being able to upgrade the system, they're not able to upgrade it currently. So at some point, it may not start working for the devices if nothing is resolved. But yeah, so I can't get CapCut back. And he says, yeah, his daughter kind of had, I guess that was the issue for his daughter not being able to use CapCut. And yeah, so I'm trying to figure things out too now that CapCut is not available.
Yeah.
But the funny thing though too is I think it's very interesting, and we can go different directions with this. But like, you know, Trump was the one that initially kind of supposedly proposed this TikTok ban. I'm not sure the exact year, might have been about 2019, 2020. But he was the one that actually started maybe this process of a national security thing on why we should ban TikTok and whatnot. So what do you guys think about maybe his position change, or how he's doing in office the first week?
Well, I think in like kind of regards to that, right? His big thing was as long as an American company owns majority market or a majority ownership share, then we're I guess I don't say we, but like U.S. is open to making a deal with that. But just a funny side note, I saw that there was iPhones with TikTok installed being sold on eBay, and it's like for thousands of dollars. I mean, people will just find an opportunity to make money in the market. So I just thought that was an interesting little tidbit there.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think no, no, go ahead, Tyler.
no. I agree, and it is funny how he did shift, and like now, I was seeing like they had mentioned even that maybe Larry Ellison would buy it from Oracle. I mean, because I think the valuation is somewhere around 200 billion. I think I read somewhere, and it was saying how like Trump's friends with Ellison, but then Trump also said I've never once talked to him about buying TikTok. So I do think it's interesting as the switch, and I think, like I said, I think maybe it's because it's recognized as a bargaining tool now that it has more value to him and the U.S. that way. Uh, but yeah, I don't know. And then the first week of office, I mean, as far as being exciting, I mean, good grief, the news feed is just going crazy. Like yesterday with Colombia and the coffee and it's really, I mean, hopefully it all benefits us, but it's really interesting to see how much stuff is being done that first week, right? I mean, definitely not a quiet news week.
Yeah, I think that's my biggest takeaway is just how much he hit the ground running, and he's doing a lot of the things that he said he was going to do, whether you like it or you disagree with it or whatnot. But I think he's doing a lot of things that he initially said he was going to try and address, and I think that's kind of why he it was such a kind of a landslide victory. And I think that kind of goes back to even the TikTok issue. I think maybe initially his first he's always willing to adapt. He's always willing to adapt and even listen to his supporters, right? So initially, maybe he felt a certain way about TikTok, and then he kind of realized, like, you know, he even used it as a platform to help his candidacy, right? He was very big on TikTok, and he used that to probably reach a different demographic that he didn't maybe back in 2016 or even 2020. But now now he sees the power of it, and now maybe that's why his stance is changing, and he's also listening to the people that yeah, we don't want this band, right? So he's trying to find a happy medium to like he said, the band may still happen, but he's hoping that a U.S. company can be a part of or find some sort of agreement with China to be a part of this company to own TikTok, right? So I think that's to me that's my biggest takeaway is that he's willing to listen to his supporters and he's like I said he's hitting the ground running and doing what he said he's basically going to do.
Do you guys think that like his success with like Joe Rogan podcasts and stuff like that, to where it's direct to I want to say like direct to consumer, but that's the way my mind works, like direct to the public, right? I think that was a huge part in his victory, especially with the younger voters. And then maybe now he realized, like you said, through TikTok, like, hey, this wields a ton of power, like, and that's why he rethought it. And I did, again, to go back to the All In podcast, that's what made me think about it. They said he's super willing to do like split testing, right? Like A/B. He's going to throw something out there, listen to the feedback, and then adjust if needed. So maybe that was one of those things. Initially, he wanted it banned, listened to the feedback on both sides, and said, "Oh, okay, maybe I need to adjust my course on that."
Yeah, absolutely. I think that like you even touched on like yesterday, there's a lot of news about like Colombia and stuff and coffee and all this. And but like you said, I feel like he's 3 steps ahead or whatnot, right? So he puts out this, this is what I want. Colombia barks at it or says we're not going to do that, and he's already has his next step. Like here, okay, well, if you're not going to agree, then boom, here's tariffs or whatnot, right? And then basically whatever time frame it was, it appears that Colombia's side has kind of folded or agreed to whatever Trump's requests have been. So it's kind of like I'm going to throw this out there, but I already know that I have that. This is my next step that I'm going to do once you come back to me. And I think that's what's interesting is he's like seeing he's seeing the whole chessboard in a sense, right? While people are kind of looking at certain moves, but he's already ahead, and I think that's the interesting thing. And what people kind of don't give him credit for, like you said, that people do say he says crazy things or outlandish things, but I think that, like you say, that's what he's throwing out there to kind of get a feel for the room or whatnot.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think when you think of, people that are very successful too, they have that same trait or same quality of, being steps ahead, whether it's the competition, whether it's their peers, right? Um they're seeing it kind of unfold in a different perspective. And so, I think what you're just witnessing, right, is just like the art of negotiating, and it happens to be in a political realm, right, where we have countries against each other versus companies, at the local level. So I think the bigger the scale that you're able to kind of see not really, I mean, really see kind of the future and how people are reacting. I think, the bigger the impact that you're going to have, the larger the scale that you have. So, yeah, it's really kind of unfolding right before our eyes. It's only been like a week, right? Like, it's crazy.
Do you guys think that this lends credence to maybe he necessarily didn't want to impose all of these tariffs, but to use it as a strong negotiating tool? I feel like with Colombia and the way that went down, I'm like, okay, this is what he said he was going to do. People mentioned it would be used as a negotiating tactic, and it was obviously very successful because cutting them off versus us being cut off, it's such a large financial impact for them. But I was like, okay, well, this shows that, like you were saying, Mark, this is what he had talked about. This is what he's going to do, and it worked, albeit a smaller country than like China, obviously, but the initial strategy worked.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, like you're saying, it's really posturing and kind of making America strong, or I don't want to say feared, but just we're gonna do what we say we're gonna do, whether you like it or not. You don't have to agree with it, but this is kind of our plan. So even like I think even the whole what was it? He's saying that he's gonna deport all these illegal immigrants and whatnot. And people are upset about the fact that he might be possibly deporting people that's been here 30 years or 40 years, or people, what was birthright citizenship, right? They're trying, but I think that's he because that's what a lot of people that voted for him want. The possibility of a lot of those things happening, I think, are very unlikely. Even if he tries to go down that route, he's going to face a lot of roadblocks. But he knows that, okay, this is what my supporters wanted. I'm going to still try and attempt to accomplish this, even though he knows that it's going to be most likely it's going to be stopped or blocked and not going to happen. But this is what the people wanted, and I'm going to try and still show that I'm going to do what I said I'm going to do. And I think that's the important thing to realize is he listened. I think he definitely listens to what the people want, and I think that's why a lot of people, even for his flaws, they still relate to him a little bit more, as far as he's listening to us. We want this, we feel that America needs this, and that's what he's trying to do. But Dennis throws out there, what do you think about the federal workers having to go back into the office? He's split on this one. Well, I think a good majority should and can come back to the office.
Hmm. Yeah, I'd say, oh man, this is, well, obviously it depends, right? So we have certain roles. I'll just kind of use the Coast Guard as an example, where you know it makes sense if you are managing maybe multiple projects across different states, kind of like a project manager, and you're having to be mobile, and you're like, hey, you're visiting Florida this month, next month is Carolinas, and then you're going up to DC, and you're just managing projects maybe at kind of a remote level. I think that makes sense, right? To have remote work. Where you can't be remote work is like if you have people that need to go underway, people that need to fly the aircraft. Like, what are you going to remote work? I mean, yeah, maybe drones are going to be part of the future, but there's certain maybe roles and skills where you need that collaborative effort of being in person. And I don't see the major kind of positive of needing that, like, hey, we could do some monthly Zoom meetings here and there and we still get the project done versus everybody's kind of coming in the office. So obviously it kind of just depends on what your kind of line of business is, but for like IT, cybersecurity, I think that can benefit from being remote because you have multiple servers in different locations checking out different job sites. So that's kind of the big thing that at least comes to mind initially. And we'll see how they kind of delineate, hey, which ones are remote, that it kind of makes sense being remote versus, hey, like if you're a team within a team project, maybe it might make more sense commuting back to the office.
All right, hold on. Dennis just texted me. He wants me to read the rest of his comments. He said it. So, because he couldn't fit it all. So part of it also says, I think there are some really talented individuals who are fully remote and could probably stay that way. Additionally, I think the option for telework every so often should stay in place, whenever that looks like. maybe one day a month or one day a week doesn't really matter to me. I do think it's more of an attrition tool, and that's good idea in my opinion.
I think too. I mean, if we're going with the same line of thinking that we've been talking about, do you think it's also a way for us to cut the fat with the federal workforce? I mean, that's probably what is. I don't think there's an issue like Matt said with remote work with certain areas of the federal government, but I'm guessing it's aimed at cutting the fat. I'm sure there's a lot of remote work that's being done but not done right, and I think it's just a way they're trying to cut the fat and reduce all the bloat. And I mean, for those of us that have worked in government organizations, there's a lot of redundancy. There is a lot of fat, and that's not like you don't want people to lose their jobs, obviously, but I think it's maybe, I mean, in some areas, I think it matters. Like, I think for me in sales, I don't know if any of you guys have ever been on like a sales floor. There's just an energy that's created there and a level of competition and productivity that me sitting in my office right now in my house, I'm never going to match. If I, but like those are certain things where I think you create like, or if you're trying to create culture, it's really hard to do too. So I mean, I don't think the federal workforce has anything to do with either one of those. But I think there's obviously, I think there's reasons to bring them back in, and I think it's also, I mean, I would argue quality of life for a lot of people due to telework has probably improved, right? Maybe they're happier, they're more productive, they live in an area where they can now afford. I think there's a lot. It'd be interesting to see with the pushback, like why is there pushback? My guess would be a lot of it is people that the productive ones don't want to go because they feel like they're doing their job already, and the ones that are not productive don't want to be found out. They've been able to skirt around a lot of stuff the last couple of years since COVID, and now it's like, oh, I got to go back into the office and actually produce.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and I think a part of it is, Elon is, supposedly, head of the Doge or whatnot. But I think, he's big on in-person kind of work or meetings. So I think, he has a big role in why, he feels this way or why this is being put in place. But I also think it's kind of a quick and easy way to, like you're saying, trim some fat, right? Right. It's a quick policy to put in. We're going to see who sticks around, and who's going to leave, and that's one way to get rid of people to resign or get out of there in a sense without really having to go through this process of seeing who's being efficient and whatnot. But let's just throw this out there. We can trim some fat right off the bat, and now we can see. But I think we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier with the whole TikTok and people making income, and that's their job. But same thing with even this federal. If you were working remotely and this was your only stream of income, and now they're going to throw this out there where you have to return to work, it's kind of, are you relying on this income, and now is returning to work going to affect your lifestyle, your living situation? So I think that's why we always go back on being financially free in a sense, or having a multiple streams of income, or figuring that out. So if something like this gets put in place where it might throw your whole lifestyle, upends, you're in a situation where, oh yeah, okay, I can walk away from this return to work proposal they're throwing out there, but I'm going to be financially okay. Yeah, Joe V's here, and hey, Blue Collar Kyle's here, man. What's up, man? Um, but yeah, we got to get Joe on, but he's afraid to show his face. He's a cop, that's why, or ex-cop.
Shocker.
Yeah.
I think everybody's out to get him.
That's it. That's it, man. I have to do like a robot voice in a dark room, create a little shadow on the face, man.
Yeah, a little
Lots of
silhouette.
mystery.
Yeah. Well, since Joe's here, we'll just throw out something fun real fast and quick. I don't know if you guys watched yesterday, but is this a first down or not?
Yes.
Dude.
Gosh, the
Man.
Chiefs.
It was
Yeah.
rigged, dude.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough to keep watching football when you see things like that happen, right? So, but
Dude,
yeah,
America loves an underdog story. I mean, everybody wanted Commanders and Bills, and this is what we got, right? I mean, hasn't New Orleans kind of been through enough already? Like, gosh, now they got to bring these two
well,
teams into town.
I didn't say I'll definitely go with the Bills. I don't know about the Commanders.
All Okay.
Oh,
I see where this has come from.
no, no, but well, since we're around that topic, real quick, did you guys? I sent it to you, Matt, but Tyler, I don't know if you guys saw about Jaden Daniels, about maybe some of where his success stemmed from.
Was it the VR stuff?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, "Oh, that's pretty that does make a lot of sense." I mean, I don't know if anyone's listening out there is interested, but there was a story about Jaden Daniels' career, how, I think he transferred from where Arizona State or Arizona, yeah, and he was kind of, he was a decent prospect. He got to LSU, and then I don't know if his company reached out to him, but they were doing like this virtual reality type training, and he started using these virtual reality things to simulate or just speeding things up. Like I think it was like 2x speed, and then basically, once he did that and his next game, I mean, he kind of went off, and he just from that point, his career kind of just took off, and it almost seemed like, and I heard people talk like Colin Cowherd and stuff talking about it, but it just, even before that virtual reality story came out, but the game just seems slowed down to him. It's almost like he sees the game in slow motion, and now it makes a lot of sense because he's gone through all these simulations at 2x speed, and now when he's actually playing, the game just seems a lot slower to him. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yep. Well, have you guys ever listened to podcasts or like book on tape, like at 1.5 or 2.0? And it's crazy how fast your brain adapts to where at first it seems like they're talking like a mouse, and then your brain picks up and it sounds normal, and then you go back to like 1.0, it feels like they're talking like super
See,
slow. I'm guessing that's
100%.
this the same thing, right? Like his brain just picked it. I think it's true. I know VR is used in a lot of different ways like that. I think I think it's really interesting to see the capabilities. I don't want to sidetrack us, but I just looked at something and that we're already talking about it. Where did it go? It's in the mortgage news, but it refers to what we were talking about. Hold on, let me pull it up. So right now the stock market's going down and bonds are rallying because Nvidia has been the biggest driver of the prevailing bull market, but I guess China's DeepSeek AI is currently on track to obliterate the worst day of losses for any stock ever. Have you guys heard anything about that?
Not not too many details about deep stake, but I did see kind of like the repercussions at market open. Like Nvidia is trading at down 13% today, like massive one drop, and I feel like all tech stocks are kind of feeling a little bit of that. Like that whole rising tide lifts all ships. Well, this is kind of that sinking tide, and it's just kind of like just a macro force that's just pulling the weight of all big tech, big cap stocks and the market at large. So yeah, I'd have to look a lot more into what the work is at DeepSeek, but it's my understanding is it's kind of like an AI that's like they're like, wow, like it's actually as advanced as American chips, if not even more. And so it's like kind of curious of like, are we really the leaders in AI? I don't know, is that kind of your understanding of it?
Yeah, and maybe is it propaganda too, right? Like we're telling ourselves, "Hey, we're the best, we're the best, and hey, there's an alternative out there that's just as good."
Yeah, exactly. I think that's kind of what I was seeing more of. Is it who's telling the truth in a sense? Is China throwing that out there to kind of make us start questioning our where we stand, or do they actually have these capabilities? And a lot of things I've been seeing is that it's kind of, they're not really sure if China has these actual capabilities based on maybe what other type of infrastructure they have for these systems to be in play. So like I said, it's really a cat and mouse game. People, if you're not, but the biggest thing is if you're not on the board in a sense, right, and you're not paying attention to these things, you don't know how to maneuver. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like even going back to TikTok, President Trump, all these things. It's like if you're not somewhat aware of what's going on, right? I mean, you're gonna just be left in the dust in a sense, and you're just going to be same thing, right? Either putting money in your savings account, or just continuously being kind of caught up in that rat race, But yeah, so how do you think, I guess, this is going to impact the mortgage rates possibly, Tyler?
It's going to be good for the mortgage rates, but they're going to go down. Yeah. So bonds, I was looking right now. Let's see. MBSs have dropped like 24 points. 10 years gone down a little bit less. So, I mean, that's going to help rates, right? Anytime bad news for the stock market, good news for interest rates is pretty much what's going to happen. And then I think that kind of helps because this week the Fed will make their rate decision too, which indirectly affects mortgage rates. And from what I see, it sounds like they're not going to make any type of rate drops. So, I mean, maybe stocks will lead the way this week, but yeah, right now it looks like it's headed down. And if you look at it since Trump's taken office, let's see, um, we were at a high of like 4.8 on the 10-year Treasury, and now it's dropped down to like 4.55. So we're headed in the right direction. I mean, I think this immediate news is it's definitely good. So if the stock market falters a little bit, it'll help the rates. I think rates are headed down anyways. I think there's going to be a huge push, even if it necessarily shouldn't go down. I think they're going to make, because that's going to stimulate growth, right? We all know that. On the flip side, the fear is once we do that, are we going to rip through inflation right again? And that's a valid concern too, I think.
I think for me, yeah, it's going to be very muddy this year. There's going to just be lots of uncertainty, and it just really depends at where you're sitting at the table, right? Like if you're a saver, you're going to be affected one way. If you're buying assets, you're going to be impacted one way. And like you said, I think the biggest thought for me is that they're trying to stimulate growth. Inflation is a concern, but I think inflation is okay in a sense if it's because of growth, not where inflation just because we're printing money and giving money away in a sense. So I think if there's something backing it to where either it's inflation because we're trying to bring manufacturing back home and we're building facilities here, or inflation because we're building growth into AI and whatnot. I think that's the biggest key is yes, there's going to be some inflationary times, but what's backing it in a sense? Are we just printing money, giving it to other countries, and now we're inflating the dollar away in a sense. So I think to me that's the biggest thing. What's backing the inflation?
Yeah, it looks like based on that, the Fed monitor tool looks like it's saying that the probability is a 98% kind of holding rates and just 2% on a cut because it's which would probably, I think previous week it said it was maybe 100%. So I think by January 29th, the market's kind of already maybe even pricing in that Feds are going to remain where they're at, unchanged without a cut. So um,
Oh, quick,
yeah, I
yeah,
believe
quickly
this.
before we before no
Go ahead.
before I forget. I know Kyle's here. I don't know if he's still here, but I just want to give him shit about his Raiders hiring Pete Carroll, who's like 85 years old or
Dude,
whatever he is. But he might be their best quarterback. I saw that. Pete Carroll might be the Raiders franchise quarterback. So
Dude, that's hilarious. Oldest head coach in the league and now oldest QB,
yeah.
baby. Go ahead. Take two of them.
that's like that. And then the Cowboys hiring Schottenheimer.
Oh
Come
yeah.
on, man. I mean, I don't care. I think it's funny, but that's interesting that they did both of those hires were kind of head scratching.
Yeah. Yeah. But the
He was the internal offensive coordinator in Dallas, right?
For
The head
Schottenheimer,
coach? Or
yeah,
yeah, or was
I
he
believe so.
was he outside?
He's like a career OC. He has like 22 years as an OC
Mm.
and has never been even considered as a head
Wow.
coach.
Well, Kyle, yes, out of nowhere, but I just happened to look over and I remembered you were here. So before I forgot, before you left, I wanted to throw that out there. All right. Okay, so we're talking about mortgage rates. Oh, Matt, so I know you've been doing some stuff with Zuber too, right? I mean, how's that been as far as your question? That was it one or two lives you guys done going over comments or questions in his feed?
Yeah, it was it's just been kind of two lives, and the initial idea was, I kind of just wanted to maybe like kind of check in, talk shop kind of deal. And then it kind of morphed into like, well, I'll kind of reach out to my audience, like, hey, what questions would you have for like one rental at a time community, and then kind of pulling multitude of questions and trying to like aim for like, maybe once a week, once every couple of weeks, kind of filtering through maybe comments or questions, just to maybe bridge that gap between myself, who's just like, a year ahead of that new investor versus, a Zuber, which is like, 20 plus years in the game. And so to maybe make that bridge a little bit closer for people that are thinking about, hey, like, is this a good time to invest? Is it still a good time to get into real estate? There's a lot of, certainly fear and uncertainty that gets pushed out on social media. So hopefully providing a little bit of a more cleaner insight for those with some of those, beginner questions that I had when I just
Yeah,
started.
so anyone out there, if you guys didn't know, like I said, Matt's been doing stuff with Zuber, like you said, maybe weekly, bi-weekly, going over topics, questions, or people's comments in Zuber's videos. So if you want to reach out to Matt, reach out to him and give him your question that you may want him to ask Zuber, or they can discuss on one of his lives. So go hit up Matt if you have any questions that you want them to discuss. But yeah, so Tyler, so what do you, I mean, are you going to be in Vegas? I know right before we got on camera, we talked about the ORAD event a little bit, and you think you'll be able to make it?
So you said it was the 16th, right? So short answer, no. But if my daughter's team, I coach her softball team. So we have a tournament that weekend. If we don't do well, I could possibly, are you guys going to be there Sunday night?
I will. I leave Tuesday morning. I leave.
Okay. Well, then, yeah, if we get bumped out early, which I'm honestly hoping we don't, if we get bumped out early, because that's only like a 4 hour drive from me.
Unless they pay you off like the refs, right? Unless they pay you off like
Yeah,
the refs of the Chiefs game, right? Yeah.
absolutely. Oh, they're so terrible. I can't watch that. It was terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what direction do you guys want to head now? You guys still want to talk about mortgage rates? Where you guys want to go from here? Any more TikTok thoughts or what?
I
If
guess
not,
I don't know. Has anybody's investing outlook for 2025 changed after the first week? Is a good thing to kind of maybe discuss.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, it's probably a good segue. I feel like, at first, especially in real estate investing, I'm like, all right, hey, when we get the next deal, when we get the next deal, then you run the numbers, and sometimes the market that you're looking in, it just doesn't make sense anymore. And so, for example, I'll put kind of New Orleans where we're at on the map here, and with that increase in insurance rates, insurance premiums, right? Like, hey, maybe that increase in insurance premium with the 6-7% mortgage rate, like, maybe that doesn't really make sense to buy that property in New Orleans. And so it's sort of like kind of letting the portfolio maybe stabilize a little bit, and then look elsewhere where there is a value, like let's just say value play, right? And so, is the value play in big tech? Probably not, right? Because they're reaching all-time highs. SPY broke over, 6,000, right? So, is the value play in stocks, or, where is that value play? And so for us, maybe it is a little bit of like building up that maybe dry powder of investing capital or disposable income, and live below your means. And maybe it's kind of like a more mellow period than maybe that aggressive 2020, 2021, where we were able to, hey, get a property this year, get a property next year, and put money into the market. And so it's almost like a little bit of a, I wouldn't say it's like an aggressive patience, which is kind of sounds weird, but that's at least maybe our perspective for now. It's sort of like kind of keep the train kind of going, but stay knowledgeable, keep learning about, hey, what are some other, um, maybe investment, um, what's the next investment kind of deal. So that's just maybe our perspective for now.
so Tyler, I don't know what your thoughts are, outlooks for 2025, and but if you also Kyle has a question or what he's thinking. So would you buy a property with seller financing? Oh, under wait, under market value, 10 years, 0% interest, but it's negative cash flow.
I'll bite. um, it's me. It would be a no, but I know there's people that do that, like in California, right, where your appreciation is going to be a lot greater than a more linear market, like Texas, or that's the biggest one that comes to mind. I think like Texas is a little bit more linear than California. But I personally wouldn't, and it's just from previous experience. If it doesn't make sense now, then I don't want to do it. Um, it's just I'm always very positive with stuff, and that can come back to bite you in the butt. So I think the play is right. So there's no interest, so you're technically making money on that end. You're banking on appreciation and principal pay down because I'm assuming you're making payments. So I guess that if you look at it like on a 5 year or 10 year window, is that going to beat me putting that same amount of money in a different investment? Then I think that I would have my answer. Um, I don't know. You can go down the wormhole even further, or the rabbit hole even further, right? Well, if those things make sense and I get depreciation and that will offset gains in other areas, then you could do it. I mean, I just know I wouldn't do it, but I'm sure there's a lot of reasons that it would make sense.
Yeah, so like one thing Dennis says, "Oh, what about a higher down payment to cash flow possibly?" But yeah, Tyler, I think it really there's a lot of other factors that need to be considered, right? I think like where you're at in your journey, what your overall portfolio looks like. I think one big question is why is it negative cash flow? Is it because it's not properly being run? Is it possibly the tenant in there is paying under market rent, or whatever, multiple tenants or whatnot? Is the property, I guess, in a sense, in need of rehab to get rents where it needs to be? Like, is there? So I think the negative cash flow part of it is kind of like, why is it negative cash flow? Is there like a reason for it? But I think at the same time, it also, like you said, where you're at in your journey. Like, if you're just starting off, I probably wouldn't take on that risk no matter what. I mean, as all of us know, I mean, some of us more seasoned than others, whatnot, but there's always something that comes up, right? And if you have a negative cash flow property, sometimes it's difficult to overcome those things, or makes it very stressful. So I think where you're at in your journey, how big your portfolio is too, like, can you cover these costs, right? Is it you have enough cash flow coming in from other assets or other investments that's going to cover this? And he says high market area, being in the Bay Area, 600K property. Yeah, so I think a lot of that too also depends how negative it is, right? Like, if you say you're in Alabama, a 50K property, that's $50 negative cash flow, right? Yeah, okay, that maybe you can tolerate. But if you're, like you're saying, in a 600K or $1 million home market where the negative cash flow is 1,000 or 1,500 or something, that's tough to swallow every month, right? So I think there's a lot of other factors involved, but definitely throwing it out there to different people, and seeing maybe there's something else creative you can throw in there, like Dennis mentioned, maybe a higher down payment to at least cash flow, or something slightly, right? Just to kind of, so you're not underwater in a sense. So hopefully that helps. Or if you have maybe more information, you can throw that out there. But yeah, I mean,
And there's always more deals
I
too,
think
right?
it's
I think sometimes you try to force stuff, and I think the more you do this, you realize, hey, I could do that, or I could wait for a deal that maybe I can get under market value and that does cash flow. I think you get out of the scarcity
yeah,
area. So
I think
yeah. I think.
no, no, go,
Oh,
no, go,
yeah. Go
man.
ahead, man. I was just gonna say, like, when for like a higher value negative cash flow property in that Bay Area too, two things come to mind. Like, maybe one, you can ask yourself, like, kind of what is your kind of like maybe unfair advantage in terms of like, do you know something special about that that area? Like obviously, maybe the Bay Area has maybe seen a dip in home prices, or obviously with commercial real estate, lots of companies are moving out. Like, do you have like hidden advantage where that, hey, maybe this area or this little pocket is thriving because a big tech company is actually coming back to California, or whatever that reason may be. And then the next thing that comes to mind is it's like not a matter of if, but when you go through a tenant turnover, you go through maybe an eviction, a vacancy. What are the rules in California that, do they allow squatters? Is it hard to get, tenants out of that property through the eviction process? Like, what are the fees incurred? And so if you're doing negative cash flow and it's on a, higher property value, like a 600K plus, maybe that negative $1,000 a month, that starts building up and snowballing. And then you go through a month of no vacancy. And now, you can kind of see that negative snowball build up quickly. So just things to consider, right? Not to completely put fear into the mind, but just things to perspective that we've experienced, right? Like we had a tenant turnover here in January because they didn't pay their rent. And so that was in Florida, thankfully. So we just posted 3 days notice, but maybe California is not like that. So I don't know exactly what those details are.
Yeah, Kyle, I think like Tyler said, one big takeaway is just really there's going to be other deals out there, right? So don't get so caught up a lot of times in having to do this certain deal. I'm sure like the 0% interest sounds really nice and something like that. So just keep in mind, I think going back to even looking at 2025, right? I think there is going to be a lot of opportunities out there. I think like I didn't really touch on it, but 2025, I feel like there's just hope or optimism, right? I think that's the biggest thing is a lot of people are feeling a certain way where there's just more sense of direction in a sense. Like we kind of touched on it earlier, right? Within this first week of Trump being in office, right? You see he's hit the ground running. He's putting all these executive orders in place, and he's making some moves. He's doing things, and whether you agree with them or not, but you see that there's some direction there. Where I feel like the last 4 years under the different administration, I was just like, man, what did they really do? I don't know. I can't really say what the direction really was, and where like I said, in Trump in 1 week, you kind of see what the vision is and what he wants to do. So I just feel like there's just that hope and optimism. But yeah, also I don't know if Frank, old guy REI, is here. Usually he pops in to say what's up, but this was actually for him because I know he's for being an old guy, he's a TikTok guy. But I want to throw this out there. Hey, where'd it go? How come? Shoots, it's not showing up today. Oh man. Oh, I'll just read it then. I had this from this guy on X put, if you're an adult and you're mad about the TikTok ban, then maybe you're not an adult. So
Broad strokes, man. Broad strokes. I feel like, man, dude, social media, like in today's, it's just it's ingrained in whether you run a business or not, right? And so it's just one of the inevitable things that you have trying to run a business. So I think there's such a broad stroke. I feel like there's lots of details for it. So
yeah, I just make fun of Frank because he's old. I'm trying to go as his son to the ORAD event to go free because you're allowed to bring like kids or whatever. Yeah,
kids under
yeah.
50.
uh, yeah. I don't know. So Matt. So I mean, guess like I you got some other thoughts, right, on your plate as far as what direction you want to head. It sounds like you got a lot of military or Coast Guard people reaching out to you? Are you coaching or anything, or are you doing anything on that front?
You might. I think the beginning part might have cut out, but I'll kind of if tell me if this is right. You're talking about like our outlook in terms of, you said like some military people reaching out,
Yeah,
coaching.
like
The
yeah, it
audio might have
sounds
cut
like
out.
you have a lot of interest, like people reaching out to see what you're doing and kind of how they can use maybe VA loans and stuff like that.
Yeah, a little bit. And I think the past couple years, it's mostly been, um, just hey, we'll hop on a call, like driving to and from work. Got 30 minutes now. Kind of just hearing a little bit about like, oh, kind of like what's the story? What are your goals? Like, you know, this is what we did. This is might something that you can consider if you're going to a new area and you're looking to get that first property using the VA loan, for example. The idea of coaching maybe uh, I'm a little kind of hesitant, right? I feel like it's probably the best way to really provide enough value and help other people to really kind of see the goal from like 0 to 10, for example. The other thing is like, um, at the same time, I still have like a full time job, and social media is something that we do for fun. We kind of share our stories, allows us to connect with a lot of cool people, right? Yeah, Mark, you're cool too.
You too.
And so, um, I think, yeah, sure, we can consider it, but it just hasn't something that really we've tapped into recently. But I'm sure the if the opportunity comes up and it makes sense for us to move forward, we'll be probably open to it.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people can get a lot of value, reaching out to you. You're doing a lot of cool stuff. And Tyler, I forget, were you doing mortgage stuff? Were you a lender before you got out of the firehouse, or you were?
Yeah, so like in the early 2000s, I started like 2000 and 2001. I did title insurance and then started with mortgage right after that. So when I got hired, I stopped because I was on probation and in the tower, and I never intended to honestly go back. But then guys kept asking me questions, and I'm like, well, I might as well just start doing loans again. And then it took off ever since. So yeah, I've done real estate pretty much every year of my life since I was an adult. Just because especially like where I live in Orange County, like that's like the mortgage epicenter, and real estate at that time in 2000 2001 was just bonkers. So yeah, I've done it for a long time.
So how do you, like you said,
Dinosaur.
yeah, how do you like doing business in California? I mean, like after these wildfires, I think a lot of people are, you know, thinking about their future in a sense, as far as, are they going to stay in California? Are they going to invest in California? Do you see more likely things to change policy wise there, or just more likely people leaving?
I don't know. I mean, I honestly, I mean, if we're going tinfoil hat time, I honestly think that things shifted already in this last election. And I just think that there's a big groundswell to change stuff. It's funny too. Like Grant Cardone is obviously all pissed off because his house um, almost burnt down, right? And he's like going up and down the state right now, like doing all these events, and it's more centered towards, I think, that like changing California policy than his traditional stuff. And maybe that's the new angle. I don't know. It was funny. He reached out to me on Instagram to see if I knew a fire captain that was on the job, because it was, I think I told you last time, because it was his house that was being saved by LA County Fire. And I was like, oh, this is a scam. So I just was like, real quick, I was like, no. And then I looked, I'm like, oh, dude, that's actually his account. But anyways, I think with people like that, I think people, right? People with deep pockets, if they want something to get pushed, they're gonna lead the charge. I think it's going to be there's going to be a shift. I think it shifted so far left. I think policies are going to change. Now, do I think like the Palisades and Eaton area are going to get these building permits right away and it's going to be super fast? No. And from what I hear, there's already a lot of influx into neighboring states. And one of the bigger investors I know in the Bay Area just announced right now he's selling the last 9 of his properties and he's moving to Nevada. And he's a smart dude. So I think a lot of people are just tired of being overtaxed. And if you can go somewhere else and have better opportunity, why not? My uncle moved to Salt Lake City, lived in Southern California. He has a property that has a beach view here in Orange County, but he decided to move to Salt Lake City because he just gave him a 14% bump, right? I mean, I think unless stuff changes, people are going to continue to move. But I saw a lot of Trump flags and a lot of things during the whole election period in a state that's decidedly left, right? So I think there's just, dude, I would take middle of the road right now, to be honest with you. Just like let's have some normalcy. moderate both sides. Like, let's go all make some money and like take care of our families, right?
Yeah,
Is it that hard?
exactly, right? Bring common sense back, right?
Dude,
I think that's, that's the biggest thing. Same thing, right? Like you said, I saw a lot of Trump flags in Hawaii, and Hawaii's a very left blue state, and I was very surprised, to see that. I don't think we'll ever go completely. Even the middle, I think, would be a stretch for Hawaii, but definitely somewhat, you know, moving in that direction would be a good sign to see. What do you think about? I know some people were upset, or I guess Trump was talking about withholding aid or whatnot, unless maybe California changed some of their policies or whatnot. I don't know if that is exact way to put it, but in that sense, where Trump's kind of, hey, if you don't do these certain things, we're gonna be withholding funds or certain aid services. Kind of, what's your thoughts on that, maybe?
I mean, I did not hear that, but I would go back to what we've been talking about all day today is there an end goal? Is he moving his pawn to trap the queen or whatever you want to say? Like, is there an end goal that benefits the public more so than what, like the initial aid of like, what was $700 on the East Coast? Like, is he thinking, hey, we'll get more funds released than that 700 if California does this? I don't know. I mean, I get people are probably angry that they're being used as a bargaining chip, so I definitely feel on that side, but I think it's an opportunity to strike, right? Like, does he have an opportunity to strike against probably Newsom's his loudest, opponent? Like, is this his chance? And does he think by doing this that it's going to better the people? Then I don't know. I mean, that's tough to say, right? Because we know when people lose all of their homes to a fire, they're devastated. So probably not the best timing, but did they think that this was going to benefit them? So I can't really speak to it, but I'm just thinking, what is the end game? Like with him, I think it's always what is the end game that I don't see and try to back my way into it.
Well, I think a lot of it too was, like California or Newsom, right? It's like they collect a lot of taxes or whatnot, they get a lot of money, and they wanted to, in a sense, Trump-proof California,
Yeah,
right? So Trump is kind of like, why should I give you aid or help you, in a sense, when you're trying to make your state basically harder for the rest of the country, or you're Trump proofing it for whatever policies that I'm trying to work on, in a sense. So you want me to help you with resources, but you're making your state opposite of what I'm trying to do. I guess that might be one, like you're saying, one avenue, or the way he's looking at it. Like, you want resources, but yeah, you're doing everything opposite of what I think is the direction, in a sense, that's going to better the overall country, in a sense. But I forgot if it was you. I don't know which live it was on, but I think the biggest takeaway that I'm hoping for is that we kind of go back to the federal government, in a sense, kind of does the basic control government, safety needs, but every state really goes back to being their own state, in a sense, and kind of policing it a certain way that they want to policy it, and whatnot.
yeah. I mean, the states'
Yeah.
rights.
That's I feel like that's how you get more buy-in, more input from your constituents as well that are living in the state. And I think to hit your point about like it's more so it almost feels like, like identity politics, like you said, are taking more of a forefront than the needs of the people whose houses just got burned down, whose lives are completely upended. And it's like, man, like you're kicking them while they're down. Like, let's focus on what we're trying to do here is, help these people and to, whatever political side, like let a ref, like to make that the focal point. It's like you're totally missing the boat. So hopefully everything kind of, like you said, gets ironed out because I know it's like, man, the more days that go by, the longer times people want to rebuild, get their lives back on track. So it's just an absolute, devastating situation for those affected.
What Matt just said reminded me. It's like the parents are fighting, and then the kids are over here in the corner like crying because right because and it's like Trump and Newsom, and it's like wait a minute, all these people over here.
Yeah, that's right. Like, we didn't get dinner. Come on now, I'm hungry.
Yeah, I think, a lot of it too is like, even I think I saw Rick Caruso. I think we talked about it last time, but he was the other candidate for mayor. And anyways, he was talking about how he, Newsom came out saying that he's going to cut red tape and all these things to speed the process up. And Caruso was like, "Well, that sounds nice, but it's roughly been 3 or 4 weeks, and there's been no cleaning of debris or removal, and people really want to just get things moving and get this process going, and nothing's being done in a sense, right?" So I think he's like, you say these certain things, Newsom, you say you're going to cut red tape and make things easier, but yet nothing on the ground is going into effect. So I think hopefully, that wakes people up, and kind of speeds up the process. Because, like you're saying, I think at the end of the day, people just want to start the process, the rebuilding, the healing process, and clean up these areas and start the rebuilding and what, or figure just what direction they're going to head in, whether they are going to move or rebuild or whatnot. But they just want to get started on this. Um, but yeah, I mean, so I guess I don't know. Anything else you guys, any other topics you guys want to touch on? I mean, I know we were talking about 2025 and our thoughts on that. Do you guys have any deals you're working on currently?
Nothing in the I have retail stuff like my mortgage and then real estate stuff, but nothing investing side right now. Um, but I wanted to watch the last couple months and kind of see where we were headed, and I think I'll ramp Boise back up.
I forgot who I saw. Someone was talking about Boise. I forgot what podcast I was listening to. Um, Shoot, I can't remember. It might have been Bigger Pockets. We're talking about the best markets to invest in 2025. And I couldn't remember if Boise was a go or no go because of just where the prices have gone as far as kind of inflated a little bit. But
It's crazy.
yeah, I think 2025 is going to have a lot of opportunities, and I think it's just, I think all of us or even the people in the chats or whatnot or being in the community. I think the fact that you were already in the game in a sense and talking to people is really going to make things a lot easier. I think I can see like if you were sitting on the sidelines this entire time and now you want to get started, I think there's so much kind of fear and uncertainty in a sense where you're just hearing all these negative things where it's hard to pull the trigger. But I think if you've been in it the past few years and you've kind of seen the ebbs and flows like we talked about before, it's going to be a lot easier to kind of maneuver in a sense, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's and to that point, once you have momentum, you don't want to lose it. It's like the flywheel. Like that's a big thing. If I have any regrets over the last couple years, it's probably that I slowed down a little bit too much when I was cooking because I was going too fast, too much. I'm like, I need a break, and then it's like, I probably could have just slowed down to here and been okay.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest part is this, always kind of staying motivated also, right? Sometimes you kind of just like, I've been going full steam. And I think for me that's the biggest thing. And that's why it's always fun to be around, you folks and people in the communities is you just see, even just seeing what other people are doing, it kind of just gets your mind thinking, and it just is interesting to see all these other strategies too. Like we go into some of these chats and there's people doing some really different things. I mean, like, creative finance stuff, short-term rentals, midterm rentals, build to rent, like Kyle mentioned, seller financing type things, like even Zuber, I don't know if I think you guys may have touched on it too, like 1031s, right? People that are possibly seeing certain things in the market where they want to exit at the peak and they're going to be looking at a certain asset class right now. So yeah, I think that's the thing, right? You just gotta put yourself out there and not saying to do a bad deal, but I think that first deal really just opens up things for you, right? Because you may not even like it, right? You may do it and you may be like, you know what, stocks is for me, right? Like real
Yeah.
estate is not my path, and stocks is the way I want to go. And I think it just, but you have to just do it and really see if it is for you. I like Tyler, I don't know about you. Are you a stock guy too, or do you do crypto?
No, I mean I'm a Vanguard guy. Like, set it and forget it. Like I'm really not. I'm
That's
basic.
yeah, that's dude, I love the boring investing.
Oh, did any of you buy the Trump meme coin?
No.
No.
Nah, man. Sticking on the sidelines for that.
Yeah.
Hey, but if you made money, great. If you got the rug pulled, I'm sorry, man. Should have learned from Hawk Tua's coin.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. We're coming out with Lauren's on pretty soon. I told her.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no.
That's funny.
All right. Well, yeah, I don't know. The Twitter stuff aren't showing up. I had a few other ones, but for whatever reason, only this picture works when I put it up for some
Huh.
reason. Yeah, I don't know. The other one, let's see.
The
It doesn't
refs allowed it. That's why.
oh, oh, this one shows up. Learning from mistakes is wise, but mistakes of others quicker and easier.
And you save more money doing that way too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, and that just goes back to, us doing these lives or, people, and like I said, in the communities, you just learn so much from other people, right? Maybe mistakes or struggles they've gone through. So yeah. Well, I don't know. You guys want anything else you guys want to wrap it up with, or anything else you guys want to say? Any other topic? Like I said, if you guys got questions that you guys maybe want Zuber to discuss with Matt, reach out to Matt, shoot him your questions, and he'll try and bring it up to Zuber and see if Zuber has any thoughts on it. But do you have like a set day you guys do that, Matt? Or are you guys working on a kind of a dedicated day?
No, it's pretty dynamic. I just kind of work like my duty schedule. Like I go in from 3:30 it's a 24-hour shift, so that's why I was like, hey, these mornings I'm free, and so it's no set schedule. Kind of just pop up here and there. I'll try to give a couple days of notice for people if they have questions, but yeah, pretty dynamic.
And I know. So are you just doing? Is it on X and YouTube, or where are you streaming that to?
Yeah, it should just be X and YouTube. I think
On
for now, yeah.
on both of your channels, or just his channel?
It should just be his. I think it's just his
Okay.
channel, and then I just take that. I'll take the link and kind of splice it, and then populate it on my end of things. Probably just the easiest way, path of least resistance to share it.
All right. And Tyler gave me but so are you gonna be in Vegas, Matt?
Oh,
Tyler, um, I think if anything, I'll just get a virtual ticket to at least be part of the conversation. I have some obligations to attend to here in New Orleans. Be there in spirit, my man.
Oh, all you guys letting me down, man. There's supposed to be
I
like
didn't
10
say
people.
no.
Yeah, no, well, not so much. Yeah, yeah. Well, you're kind of close, so hopefully you're able to make it out for, Sunday night or whatever. But like I said, too, I still don't even know who all the full speakers are. I'm not sure. Like Coach Carson, I'm not sure if he's going to be there this year. I don't remember because I know he has his own event early February in Charlotte. So I'm not sure if he's going to be there. But yeah, all right. Well, yeah, unless there's anything else you guys want to wrap it up with, I mean, this was a good one. I don't know. Do you guys have TikTok though on your guys' app? Or I know Tyler must.
I do, but I don't even like I said. I
Yeah,
literally never go on it.
yeah. Matt, do you have it though?
I do not know. Just
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, like I said, CapCut I can't get back on anymore, but I did have TikTok, but same thing. I just use it for very random things. But apparently, I guess there's a lot of recipes and stuff on there. Aaron said, or that's what he uses it for, right?
That's
Sure,
awesome.
Aaron.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going scrolling on recipes.
Uh, all right. Well, we're still trying to get Aaron back on. I think he's one of the most requested guests to come back on, but
Nice.
I know he's busy. So we're always trying to get him back on. But we'll try and do this again, and hopefully keep you guys entertained and learn a few things. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, everyone.
Appreciate it.
All right,
Thanks for having me on. Good to
all
see
right,
you, Tyler.
guys.